Newsmaker of the Year because we don't have to say that anymore. It's an established fact. You guys can come up. You just stand close. You know. Yeah, come on. You come, Steve. So they call me the Newsmaker of the Year because, you know, I won the Cranes Newsmaker of the Year. And then we won the Midwesterner Newsmaker of the Year. And we all know it's a consensus position. That's it. So we didn't put it on the podium anymore. We just didn't need to. It's an established fact. But I did want to present, I wanted to talk about another award that I received. And we're receiving these awards at a faster pace than we're doing the press conferences. So we might do more press conferences. Maybe we'll do 3 a week so we can show all the awards. But this is a very good one. I don't think I told you about this yet, Pauline, but this is a beautiful one. The Northern Michigan Chamber Alliance Defense Industry Champion for 2026. And you see this, I won this award because I helped the defense industry in Northern Michigan in a way that no one has ever done before. So, yeah, I'll stand over here. You got it? You want to be in the picture, Pauline? Look at this. Got that for the camera shots. So this is big. You guys might not know that, you know, the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, recently was tasked with finding 3 test sites in Michigan, or excuse me, he was tasked with finding 3 test sites around the country for drone and unmanned aerial vehicle testing. And there was a big effort underway that I was leading along with John Roth and Ken Borton and Cam Cavett and our Northern Michigan delegation to try to get Northern Michigan to be one of these 3 test sites. And so you know that we were at the White House recently and we were working very hard to get this designation, working also with Jack Bergman, who's the congressman up there. And we all were working under the effort that I was leading, and recently, Secretary of War Hegseth announced that Michigan was awarded one of these 3 site designations for the whole country. This is a huge achievement for Michigan, for Northern Michigan. This is big for Camp Grayling. A lot of these places up north where they're going to be now one of these 3 official test sites for the unmanned aerial systems and the drones. This is huge for the drone industry across our state, and it's a big one for Northern Michigan. So recently, the Northern Michigan groups gave me this award for really leading, and it's the first award they've ever given. They said, what you did, Speaker Hall, was so critical to Northern Michigan and our defense industry that we created this award for you because what you did made a huge difference for Northern Michigan. I mean, for now, Northern Michigan is going to be on the map for the whole country for drones, for unmanned aerial systems. And by the way, I've had multiple people within the Whitmer administration tell me that because of President Trump's policies, these foreign drones, they're not buying. No one is buying these foreign drones anymore, and it's creating opportunities in Michigan for new drone manufacturing. And I think Northern Michigan is going to benefit the most from this with their new site designation. And I want to thank President Trump and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth for what they did to bring this site designation. I was happy that we were heard along with our Northern Michigan reps, Parker Fairbarn, Ken Borton, Cam Cavett, John Roth. We have a great group of people up there that worked with me on this, but they could only give 1 award, so they gave it to me. Now that we've established that, I just wanted to, I should straighten this out. I just want to make sure it looks good in all your pictures. You like that? Okay. So anyway, I'm gonna turn it over to Pauline Wenzel, who's been doing a great job as energy chair. I appointed her energy chair. There were a lot of people who wanted to be energy chair. It was one of the most sought after positions, but it was an easy decision. And after looking at this plan that Pauline has put together, and she has been working on this for a long time, a year, working on this. And what I told her was, and really the reason I picked her for energy chair, Pauline did not want to just repeal what the Democrats did. That's, like you hear some of the other politicians, they say, we're going to just repeal what the Democrats did. That's not good enough. Yes, we're going to repeal what the Democrats did, but we're going to replace it with a modern energy law. So we're not saying go back to the 2016 energy law. We're not going to do that. We're going to create a new modern energy law with a focus on affordability and reliability, and that's it. We want to make your energy bill more affordable, and we want your power coming to your home to be more reliable. No more of these days where the wind blows just a little bit and your power goes out. We're going to have a modern, reliable grid, and it's going to be affordable, and your energy bills are going to go way down because of our plan. So I will turn it over to Pauline to talk about that. So welcome, Pauline, and you did a great job. I think these people in the media are very excited to hear about your plan, and I think they'll be very open-minded to covering it fairly. So let's hear it. This is a good one, guys. There, you can stand.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And good afternoon. Thank you all for being here today. So there's a story that never really makes the news, but plays out in homes across the state every single month. Family sits down, opens the electric bill, and tries to figure out how they're going to make things work this month. Maybe they turn the thermostat down a few degrees. Maybe they buy the off-brand peanut butter. They do what Michigan families have always done, and they make it work. But they shouldn't have to. Electricity is not a luxury. It heats our home in January. It keeps the lights on in our hospitals. It powers the factories that gave our state our identity. When government drives up the cost of that electricity through mandates that have more to do with political ideology than engineering reality, it's not a talking point. It's a tax on every family that flips a switch. In 2023, Lansing Democrats passed sweeping energy mandates on a party line vote to appease environmental lobbyists over the people of Michigan. The result has been higher bills, growing strain on the grid, and families paying for policies they never asked for. There's a lot of finger pointing about who's to blame for this rising energy costs right now. Let's be clear. Under the Democrats' extreme 2023 energy mandates, utilities are forced to recover the full cost of these unrealistic, unobtainable green dream. Every dollar spent meeting these dreams shows up on every family's electric bill. Exactly what I predicted would happen in 2023 is now happening. Everybody's bills are going up. This is a direct result of the bill Democrats hastily wrote and naively voted on. Today, I'm introducing Project Lighthouse, a plan built on two pillars every Michigan family can understand. Is my power reliable? Are my bills affordable? Under my plan, those are the questions that drive every energy decision in this state. Our plan repeals the 2023 green energy mandates and restores a common sense approach that allows engineers, not politicians, to determine how to keep power reliable and affordable. It restructures utility planning so the Michigan Public Service Commission approves energy plans based first on system reliability and minimizing costs to our ratepayers. It evaluates how the grid performs under peak demand and extreme conditions, which we're seeing a lot more of. Because when it is 10 below zero on a January night, Michigan families have enough on their mind. One of them shouldn't be if their power is going to work. So Project Lighthouse also ends the practice of forcing families and businesses to fund outside political advocacy groups through their electric bills. Your utility payment should keep your lights on, not bankroll organizations you never voted for. Finally, it encourages investment in a stronger grid by streamlining how utilities can invest in reliability and resilience. 2 years ago, Democrats in Lansing chose talking points and unproven environmental policies over the people of Michigan. These bills correct that mistake. They make sure that when the weather turns and the grid is tested, my constituents, my neighbors, and my own family know that their power will stay on. And just as important, they bring peace of mind to Michigan families. No one should be lying awake at night wondering how they're going to afford the electricity they depend on every single day. Reliable power, affordable power. That's what makes these bills deliver. And that's what the people of Michigan deserve. Thank you.
Wow. No, and that was great. And I know, Steve, you did a lot on this. So Steve's been great. He's been doing a lot, too, for the drones. You're trying to do some big things for the Battle Creek area for drones. So we could really have a lot going on if we do Battle Creek and we do Michigan,
Yes.
up in northern Michigan. And appreciate all the work. Do you think in your district, Steve, how big of an issue is energy affordability and reliability? Is there anything you want to say, or you?
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, we started to hear this at the doors in 2024 when I first ran about affordability, and energy costs were a worry then, and they've only gotten worse. And I think what Rep. Wenzel has done here in putting together this package is outstanding. Energy must be treated like long-term business. You cannot pivot in energy. You must transition. A goal of clean, more reliable, and affordable is always good. I don't think anybody wants to continue with dirty means of producing energy in a long-term way. But we also have to transition, not pivot. Those costs that we inherited with that pivot are going to be with us for a while. And what Pauline is doing is trying to reverse that trend, and we appreciate the speaker's support in this effort and trying to bring affordability to the forefront, along with reliability for the citizens of Michigan.
Sure. Here, you want to go over here? So, no, and then just to go through this a little more, now, it's interesting. So since 2023, we ran the numbers, and by the way, how out of touch is the Michigan Public Service Commission? I saw these guys on, they made a video and they said that their rates are not going up. They said the rates are not going up. And then, first it was the Detroit News, so I had to fact check it with a second source, and I did. And I found out the rates are going up. The rates are going up much higher, and the Michigan Public Service Commission, they're trying to cover it up. And you think they would know what these are. They're the ones that approve all these rate increases over and over and over, this Governor Whitmer board. So we looked at it. Since 2023, they've raised the rates by $1 billion. That's what they've done, largely because of the wind and solar mandates. They're trying to force all this wind and solar on us with the mandates, and all the construction is a big part. And so with our plan, we're forcing the utilities to lower their rates by $1 billion. So we're wiping out all those fee increases that have occurred since 2023. And then we're going to force the utilities to freeze their rates for at least 2 years after that. That's going to be key. So we're wiping out all of those increases. And we're going to actually do what the Public Service Commission should have done, which is never approve those rate increases. So we're going to force the utilities to lower their rates by $1 billion. That's going to wipe out all their rate increases since 2023, which is about the last 3 years. And then we're going to force them to keep those rates for at least another 2 years. We'll see. By getting rid of all these mandates, we're going to get rid of the mandates. We're not going to go back to what they did in 2016. We're going to get rid of the mandates. We don't want, we just want what's affordable and reliable. And if that's natural gas, if that's nuclear, fantastic. We need more of that. We need to get rid of all of these regulations and mandates that have forced them to raise the rates by $1 billion over the last 3 years. So this plan is going to save the average person, person, $500 a year on their energy bill. That's the impact of what the House Republicans are doing. And what we're going to do is we're going to end this program where they, they spend, millions and millions of dollars to try to get the waste reduction by 1%. So what they're doing is they have this in the law where they say you must do 1% less energy than the year before. And in order to do that, they're spending millions and millions and millions of dollars to try to lower that by 1% every year, the amount of energy used. Rather than try to do that, we're going to get rid of that. We're going to get rid of the regulations and the mandates. We want more energy production. We don't want less energy production, right? With the data centers that are going to require a lot of energy, a lot of the other ideas out there. As Michigan is growing, we're going to use more energy. We don't want to use less energy. And instead, we want it to be affordable and reliable. So what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of that. Now, I'll give you, they gave some statistics to us, and they said the average Michigan family has been overcharged $760 for the last decade. So you're paying $760 more than you're supposed to as they do all of these stupid programs to try to reduce the amount of energy used by 1% a year. So we ran the numbers, and to break even on this program, you would need 30 washing machines at the $25 rebate they offer you, or 70 power strips at the $10 rebate they give you. And that's just one of the gimmicks they use. But this is no, they're charging you more to spend tens of millions of dollars to try to reduce the amount of energy spent. And that's one of the major drivers that's driving off the cost. So we're going to get rid of that. That makes no sense. We're just instead going to have affordable and reliable energy. We're going to change the way that they make their decisions on the Michigan Public Service Commission, and we're going to force the Michigan Public Service Commission through the law to use two things they care about: affordability and reliability. So does the plan in front of you make energy more affordable, and does it make the grid more reliable? Those are the factors they're going to consider instead of all these stupid factors like environmental justice and social issues that they use to determine energy, okay? All of this stuff they're doing, all this political stuff, all this social and environmental justice, that's what's raising your rates by $1 billion. We're going to get rid of that. We don't need social and political issues in our energy, so we're going to take that away from the Public Service Commission and tell them only affordability and reliability. What is making our energy bill more affordable, and what's going to make the grid more reliable? And that's how they're going to make their decisions. And then one more thing on here that we're going to do is we're going to stop, they're paying millions of dollars a year in your energy bill, off your energy bill, to lobbyists and activist groups to lobby for these things that are raising your rates. So I'm going to give you an example. I got the slides back. Look at these groups. So they're paying millions of dollars a year. They're charging you on your energy bill. And then they're paying lobbyists and activist groups millions of dollars to raise your rates. We're going to take that away. We're not going to do it anymore. So look at this. The Michigan Environmental Council. Your rates are paying this group to move 100% toward clean energy. And by the way, the board that distributes these grants, guess what? They all own these companies. They all own the clean energy companies. So there's a board that all own the clean energy companies. These people are very conflicted. Now, they tell us that these people are supposed to be looking out for the ratepayers. They don't give a shit about the ratepayers. Instead, what they're doing is they're paying lobbyists and activist groups, and they're paying them to raise your rate. They're using your money to force all this political and social justice on you and to raise your rates. It's really crazy. Look at this group's solidarity that they're paying, that you're paying, really, the ratepayers. You're paying this group, and they say, any solution to racism and capitalism must also address the climate problem, and vice versa. This is who they're paying They say that this group is trying to lower your rates, but they're not. They're pushing their social views on you, and they're pushing this wacky clean energy scam that's not working. I mean, by the way, it is now the consensus position that the Democrat energy law that they passed will raise your rates by thousands of dollars. That's the consensus position. Everyone agrees with that. Now, when Pauline got up, and I think it's the only floor speech Pauline's ever given, maybe when we pass this, we'll get another one. We'll see. And we love when Pauline gives her speeches, but she makes them count. And Pauline, when you gave this speech, you told us, you said, this is going to make the rates go up. And there were a bunch of people arguing with Pauline and said, no, it's not. No, the rates are not going to go up. Well, it is now the consensus position. Even the utilities agree with me and Pauline. The rates are going up significantly because of all the wind and solar mandates that they're forcing on us. They're too expensive. They're not reliable. They're not affordable, and they're not reliable. You can't power data centers with windmills and solar panels. You can't power manufacturing plants with them. And also, they cost so much to build up all this capital everywhere, and you need so much of it because it's not efficient. Look at these groups. They're getting paid by your bills, by these lobbyists and activists. They're getting paid. The Citizens Utility Board of Michigan. That sounds interesting. And look at this. The environmental implications of investment in clean energy. They're all using social and environmental justice. They're not focused on lowering your rates one bit. These guys, Great Lakes Renewable Energy Association. And they're formed to expand clean renewable energy in solar and wind. That's what all these groups are. They tell you that these groups are fighting to lower your rates. They're not fighting to lower your rates. They're getting paid by you to force wind and solar on you, which is raising your rates, which is why we're gonna get rid of them. We're not gonna pay them anymore. We're gonna stop paying them millions of dollars. So I thought I would point that out. Now I know the governor proposes in her budget actually giving more money to this. We're gonna do the opposite. We're gonna eliminate it altogether. So yeah, we've got a great energy plan. Anything else you guys want to say on it? All right.
Did a great job.
Thanks for your work on that, Pauline. You're doing a great job. And I know Steve, this guy, he said, every day Steve is on me. We need to lower people's energy bills. So great work on this, Steve, as well. So I think you got other things to do, Pauline. So we'll see you guys. All right. No, I just wanted to move on to another issue. First, this ridiculous. You guys see, now they told me the Democrats in the Senate today, all they did was they voted on one bill, I think, and I don't know what it was. Do you know what it was, Brandy? What? Medical debt. Yeah, so we'll see what happens with that. But what we're trying to get them to do is we're trying to get them to pass this law to save all the doctors. Have you guys seen this? The doctors, they're all going to lose their licenses because they're out-of-state doctors, and we're in a compact that allows these doctors to be licensed in Michigan. And my understanding is very soon, if we don't pass a law to renew our membership in the compact, the doctors are not going to be able to practice in Michigan anymore. And I looked at this, during the Democrat trifecta, and we all heard Mike Duggan say that the Democrat trifecta, they did nothing. They ran on all these issues and they did literally nothing, except for increase your energy bills. They did nothing else. Well, here's another example of the Democrat trifecta doing nothing. The House passed a bill to renew this compact in 2024, and I think it was 105 votes, and the Senate did nothing with it. It never passed the Senate. The Senate chose not to run the bill. Here we are. It's 2026 now. We passed this bill to continue the medical compact and have all these doctors keep their licenses in Michigan. We passed it once in March of 2025. It passed very easily. It had 105 votes, I think, and then we passed it again in February of this year, and it had, I think, 102 or 105 votes as well to pass it through the House. So we've passed this bill now 3 times. Once when Joe Tate was Speaker. I give Joe Tate credit for that. He moved it. Winnie Brinks sat on it, blocked it, killed it. Now, again, in 2025, we passed it. Democrats aren't moving it. And again, in 2026, we moved it. Democrats aren't moving it. I know a lot of people, including Roger Houck, who was the sponsor of a similar bill in the Senate, are calling on the Democrats to pass the House version of this bill, and let's get it over to the governor and let's get it signed before spring break, because I think that during spring break this is going to expire and you're going to have thousands of doctors that can't practice in Michigan anymore. I don't know what the Democrats' problem with this bill is. When I talk to the Senate Democrats, they don't really seem that familiar with the bill, and they can't really give me objections. But I certainly hope that the politics will end. I certainly hope this is not because of a problem that the Democrats have with the bill sponsor, Riley Linting. I know Riley Linting has been working very hard on this. This is the first bill she introduced. She's worked very hard ever since she got elected. She told me we need to ensure that we improve access for care, medical care in Michigan. We want to have all of these doctors licensed. We want them to be practicing in Michigan. We want to have better regulatory policy in our state so we can have more healthcare access, not less. So I would really encourage the Democrats, including the person I endorsed to be their next leader, Darren Camilleri, to help Riley Linting and I get this across the line. Wouldn't this be a nice gesture from Darren Camilleri? I endorsed him. I knocked Sam Singh out of the legislature. And by the way, none of the Democrats have endorsed Sam Singh for their leader. Have you noticed that? There's not one Democrat who's put their name out and endorsed Darren Camilleri for their leader. I did. I endorsed him. I'm picking the Democrat Senate leader, Darren Camilleri, so he kind of owes me, to be honest. I got Sam Singh to drop out of the race, and then the legislature, which I was not trying to get him to drop out of the legislature. I was actually just trying to help Darren Camilleri win their leadership because he would be much easier to beat in the negotiations. So I feel like Darren Camilleri owes me. So Darren, just tell Winnie Brinks, you're good, and let's move this bill. Let's allow all these doctors to be licensed. There's nothing wrong with Riley Linting introducing this bill. It's passed. All the Democrats in the House voted for it. And I just think that, Darren, he's going to grow into the position, right? And as he's growing into the position, Darren's going to have to learn. We got too much to do to worry about who gets the credit. And I think if the Senate Democrats step up and they actually put this bill over the line, everyone's going to get credit. Riley Linting will get credit. The Democrats will get credit. The governor will get credit. We'll all get credit because really we deserve credit if we've saved all these doctors' licensure, okay? We don't need to not solve the problem and then blame each other. Let's work together as a team and let's solve this problem. And I think this is an opportunity for Darren to demonstrate that he's capable of the type of leadership that I saw in him when I endorsed him and chose him to be the next Democrat Senate leader. So we'll see what happens there. I wanted to applaud what Governor Whitmer has done. With her visit yesterday to meet with President Trump. This was a fantastic team effort. I had some concerns with Governor Whitmer, and I expressed those to her as well as publicly about the decision to not go to the White House with the National Governors Association. I didn't agree with the way she handled that. I think she went to the Olympics instead. But fortunately, I've had a number of private conversations with her. I've expressed it publicly how I felt about it, but, give her credit, right? She figured that out, and she was there with President Trump yesterday. And I'll say that really that what's been going on behind the scenes on a number of these issues has been a very unified team effort. I shared with you last week the need to fund the new runway at Selfridge. And remember, this started when Governor Whitmer and I asked President Trump to move the timeline. Let's get this done in 2028 before President Trump leaves office. That is where this started. We asked for that. He committed a fighter mission. We asked him to speed up the timeline. And we saw, and I don't know how David Eggert does it, but this guy, he's got incredible ear to the ground. So he found this letter that he published in Cranes that said, it showed exactly what we've been talking about. It showed the commitment from the Air Force to meet the new timeline. It explained what the Air Force is doing, which includes the hangars, and it appealed to us, but we need you to fund the $152 million for the runway. And so if there's some kind of miscommunication with Kevin Hertel and the Senate Democrats, I will say that Kevin Hertel and the Senate Democrats have not been an active participant in this team effort, okay? Now, we're seeing some of that confusion play out. I saw a comment from Kevin Hertel in that story yesterday where he says, we'll just do this in the regular budget. I'm telling you, if we wait to do Selfridge in the regular budget, even if it's July 1, we will not meet the timeline. And Kevin would know this if he was an active participant in these conversations, which he's not. He has no idea. But if you were to talk to the team members that are actually working on this behind the scenes, see, this is a difference between a politician who just takes credit but isn't doing anything and the ones that are actually carrying water around here and doing the work. And that's why I win all the awards. I didn't come up here and talk about this. They gave me the award, and then I'm telling you, but this is an example. We've been working behind the scenes to get this drone designation for Michigan. Well, likewise, you see that letter David Eggert had? It's dated, I believe, in December. So we've been working on this for many months, and then in December, we got the commitment from the Air Force that we were going to meet the timeline, or that they were going to meet the timeline if we funded the runway. Now, in order to get this done and not put the Selfridge mission in jeopardy, we've got to do it by the end of spring break. If we wait to do it under the plan that Kevin Hertel has laid out and the Senate Democrats in July 1, this will not happen during Trump's presidency, and it's at risk. That's just the facts of the timeline that we have been given. So we've got to get this done by the end of spring break, and the Senate missed an opportunity to pass it today because they were only voting on one bill, and they're not here the rest of the week is what we've heard. So we got to get Selfridge done. I know there were a lot of questions last week. I think that this letter that David Eggert found cleared up a lot of the confusion. And this has really been a team effort with myself and Governor Whitmer and the U.S. Senators, Slotkin and Peters, Lisa McClain, John James. We've all been working toward this. And the way it started was Governor and I met with President Trump. We asked for a new fighter mission for Michigan. He agreed. He came to Selfridge. Then the governor went back and said, hey, we need to do this before you leave, President. Can you move up the timeline? President agreed. Then the Secretary of the Air Force reached out to me and said, to meet the timeline, I need you to get us a runway. So the governor and I talked. We talked with our U.S. senators. We talked with members of our delegation like Ron Robinson, Alicia St. Germain, And we worked together to secure this commitment in writing, which apparently David Eggert found and put that out there. So we have that commitment in writing from the Air Force. They'll meet the timeline if we cover the runway. We need to cover the runway, but we need to do it before spring break is over. We can't do it during the timeline laid out by Kevin Hertel. He's jeopardizing the mission. You know, if I don't know what's going on, I ask somebody before I start talking, and I think Kevin Hertel could learn that lesson. Totally has no idea what he's doing, and don't know how he's gone as far as he has, but you know, he's good at taking credit, but not good at doing the work. So then, as we move forward, I think the you know, the work we've been doing on FEMA has been a team effort. Likewise, you know, I was at the White House recently. You know, talking to the White House about getting this FEMA funding. I know our members like Ken Borton and Cam Cavett and Parker Fairbarn, many others were working this issue. You know, Congressman Bergman and I have been working this. I know Congressman Bergman has been talking to President Trump about this, including earlier last week. Lisa McClain has been very helpful. So essentially, we've all worked as a team. We've all been working with a unified message on Selfridge, on getting this FEMA funding for northern Michigan, and on the Asian carp. You know, I was on the phone last week with the Army Corps on this, working to help the efforts to continue this commitment that President Trump made from us. So I'm grateful to the governor yesterday to be there to help us close this deal, what was really a team effort and a great outcome that we're getting this FEMA funding for Michigan. So I'm really pleased to see that. I hope we get the runway done. I'm sure that you know, us moving this last week helped her in her conversation with President Trump to show Michigan's commitment to getting this done and meeting the timeline so we get this done during his presidency. And we continue to see support and progress on the efforts to build a barrier to keep the Asian carp out of the Great Lakes. And you saw that renewed commitment yesterday from the president. So I'm very pleased. I bet if you ask the governor, I bet she never had this many meetings with Biden. And you just see how much President Trump cares about what we're doing, and a great team effort. And I give the governor a lot of credit for being there yesterday and getting that commitment finalized. So that was a great thing for Michigan. And you see those of us that are actually working as a team, carrying the water, versus the ones that just show up at the end and try to take credit, people like Kevin Hertel and many others. So I'll stop there. I don't know if there are any questions. Yeah, go ahead. How are you doing? You know, we missed you the last couple weeks, Jordan. You must have a big scoop that you've been in. Really? That must be a big story you're working on for Bridge. One thing I like about Bridge is they don't force them to recycle the same story every day when they don't have anything to write about. They really give you room to do investigative journalism. And what you guys have done exposing a lot of these economic development scams, I don't think you'd be able to do if you weren't given that ability to really research things. So that's a much better model than the ones that just regenerate things every day.
So my question actually goes back to, I just want to make sure I didn't misunderstand you earlier. When we somewhat talked about the 5 bills that passed in the Senate regarding medical debt caps, barring foreclosures on homes with medical debt, et cetera. Were you saying that you won't take up those bills unless the compact bill is first taken up and passed by the Senate?
No, I just know they weren't, typically they don't do anything, so I don't think they're here this week. You're saying they passed 5 bills?
Yeah, they passed
Yeah.
2 bill packages. They were ones that were called for in
Oh, yeah.
state address.
And did you, yeah, so what I would say is, you know, I think the medical debt is an issue we have to be very concerned about. The medical debt, and someone told me it's 25% of all debt is medical debt. I think there's some concepts that we can work with out of the bills. I know Jonathan Lindsay has been working on this, right? And Jonathan's a smart guy. I know Angela Regas has been working on this in the House. What I would say is we want to see medical price transparency. These, I know those bills are kind of related. If you look at those bills, they say that you can't collect debt unless you open up your books and you have the price transparency. Did they pass that one?
No, they haven't,
Yeah.
but Missy did call and pass it to me.
Yeah, so I think we want to look at including that because these guys they won't tell anyone what they're charging for their services. And we saw, by the way, the hospitals just the other day, some of them are asking for a 44% rate increase. It's outrageous. And that's why we need the price transparency. So we want people to see what they're charging. And that fits together pretty well with the medical debt because the law says, the consequence of not revealing their pricing is they can't collect any of this medical debt. So I think those fit together well. We're also looking at our new regulatory board that will be holding the hospital executives accountable and opening up their books. We want to look at their nonprofit status and ensure that they're not making big profits. We also, because if they're making big profits, they can lower their rates. If they want to stay nonprofits, we also need to look at these big mergers and acquisitions. These hospital systems are getting so big. And we thought it was going to lower the rates, but the studies are telling us it actually increases the rates considerably. And then you have one that wants a 44% price increase in 1 year, which is ridiculous. They're just proposing it in 1 year. I think it might take a few years to kick in, but they come in and say, we want to raise it 44% this year. Just crazy to see that. So I like this issue, but I'd like to, it's incomplete, and we want to see these other things go into place too. Yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
Would you vote on the Senate legislation that would keep the UIA from going back to collecting benefits from that were improperly paid during the pandemic?
No.
Non-fraud beneficiaries?
No.
Familiar with this?
No, I'm not familiar with it, but I don't think I would vote for it now because I know we've been working hand in hand with the Unemployment Insurance Agency and their director, Palmer. I know him very well. I meet with him a lot. A lot of this was paid out. A lot of it was fraud, but a lot of it was paid out. And I guess the way that I view it is, number one, we want to establish that the communication was there. In most cases, the people that were overpaid your tax dollars have been communicated with many times, okay? And this has been going on for years, and there was a lawsuit on it, and this all has been adjusted based on what the judges said. So essentially, my understanding is they're communicated with many times over many years. And if they should come up with reasonable payment plans that based on the communication that recover this money for the taxpayers, because the taxpayers and a lot of the small businesses paid this tax to get this money. Then the Whitmer administration pays it out through fraud, through mismanagement. They just pay it out to everybody, people that are not eligible, just like they do with many of the welfare programs. They pay it out to all kinds of people that are not eligible. So when we find that, like in this case, we want them to repay, but over a reasonable payment plan over time, and we want to make sure the communication was there. Now, in the examples where there's not communication, we need to do something about that. So I do not support the agency going to people that they did not communicate through some kind of error and then trying to force them to pay in a very quick way. I don't support that. So what I do support is measured, reasonable repayment plans with people that have been communicated with and figuring out a reasonable way to collect that money over time. Go ahead, Elena.
Quick question to clarify. So to hold up over the interstate physicians
I don't know. I'm just saying if that's the reason, I think it's an opportunity for Darren Camilleri to be a leader, something that he's not become yet, but he could become. I see it in him. That's why I endorsed him for Democrat leader. I see Darren Camilleri's potential. He could be much better than Winnie Briggs.
But there is also an identical Senate bill sitting in the House.
But the sponsor, Roger Halkas, said, I think we should pass Riley's bill.
Who gets the public acts to prevent this policy from passing on time?
I don't think so, because I think Darren Camilleri will take the opportunity and he'll go to his leader and say, you know what, we all get the credit when we accomplish something. The Democrats are focused on the credit when they don't do anything. I mean, look at Kevin Hertel on Selfridge. He's not doing anything and he wants the credit. Well, I think Darren Camilleri has the opportunity to lead the Senate Democrats out of that and to say, hey, if we get it done, we're all going to get the credit. But more importantly than if the politicians get the credit, the doctors are going to get their licenses, and people are going to get the care that they need, especially in these communities that don't have enough doctors. So I think Darren will see the light, and I think he'll persuade. I think that we'll see the bill move, and I'm very, very happy that I think we'll see that. Yeah, go ahead.
So this plan is essentially repealing the 2023 energy plan, is that correct?
Repealing it and replacing it with a modern energy law. So what some people say is we should just go back to the 2016 law, repeal and go back to the 2016 law. What I appreciate about what Pauline has done and what I asked her to do is she's not going back to the 2016 law. She's repealing the 23 law, which has raised costs and not helped reliability. And she's proposing a different law that learns from 2016 and 2023 and is different than 16 and 23. And that's what we need to do, not to just repeal what the Democrats did, to learn and update from both 16 and 23. I think so. I think they were introduced yesterday, so you'll probably see them today. But I will promise you we're not going to vote on them today. I know she doesn't like it when I do that. Go ahead. Yeah, Ben.
Partially blame these out-of-control rate increases.
Right.
Bad decisions made by the PSC.
Yes.
Also, some adjustments groups and environmental groups.
Yeah, they're wacky.
And while, there's certainly a lot of blame around for what the PSC has done,
Yeah.
don't the utilities deserve some of this scrutiny here? They've made great requests. They said that they're going to use the money to improve the grid, and that doesn't come to pass. They take a lot of our money to lobby you guys to let them do whatever they want, and they do. So how much does corporate greed factor into all of this in their decision making? And are you going to hold the utilities accountable?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. And that's why the corporate greed, that's why we're going to force them to lower their rates in the law. Because you imagine, so what the old Republicans did, these were the loser Republicans, like the Jeb Bush, Romney Republicans. What they did is they would lower all these costs for the utilities. And then they would not require the utilities to lower their rates. And what you would get is, a business, a corporation would get all this benefit through lower costs, and then their profits would go up. That's why, the new Republicans, these are the Republicans that I'm leading that are fighting for working families, inspired by President Trump and looking at we need to be fighting for working families, not big corporations. We're saying we'll lower the costs. We'll take a lot of the costs out of there, like the wind and solar mandates and the property taxes, because they're going to benefit from our property tax cut. But then we're going to require you to lower your rates so your margins don't go up. And that's because of what you said, which is that we no longer can trust these corporations to just do it automatically. I mean, you see you know, look at them. I mean, GM, they're making a lot of money, and they keep asking us for hundreds of millions of dollars, you know, and they say, we're going to run out of money if you don't pay us. And then you look at their statements, and they say, you would have been fine without this money from us. That's also why we're doing this with the hospitals. We're saying, look, we pump billions of dollars a year into the hospitals through the DHHS budget, and they're always saying they're on the verge of bankruptcy. And then we look and we see all the new buildings they're building, and all the executive CEO pay and 7-figure pay. And we're just saying, look, show us your books, a regulatory commission. We'll make sure you're making enough money to stay as a nonprofit. But we're not gouging people anymore, gouging them and then asking for a 44% rate increase. I think the trust in a lot of these groups is going away, whether it's the hospitals, whether it's the energy companies, the insurance companies. You know, they're all getting richer, and the working people, we're not getting the same. We're actually getting stretched further. So that's why we're doing it this way. Great question, Ben. Yeah, go ahead.
Yesterday, several bills came out of the Transportation and Construction Committee about the taxing the miles.
Oh,
of
yeah.
the,
Yeah.
trucking. Is that something that we'll see take vote, or do you have a position on that, the outline?
Well, that was interesting. Yeah, he's talking about there were some bills that had to do with vehicles miles traveled for the diesel trucks, the big trucks, like semi trucks, and you know, Pat and I've talked a lot about this, and Pat Outman's done a great job as the transportation chair. Nobody thought we could get the roads deal done that we got done. That really contributed to me being Newsmaker of the Year. Nobody thought we could get it done. Pat led that for us and did a phenomenal job in getting a great roads deal. Now he's working on the electric trucks. Now what Pat tells me is there's already a system in place to do this for these big trucks. You don't have that with regular cars. We did not consider this for the regular cars, but the big trucks, they already have a way of doing this, and kind of in their the way that they log miles. You know, this fits better with big trucks than it does with regular people's cars. The concern is that the big trucks, electric trucks especially, can drive all the way through Michigan without paying anything, where a regular truck at least would largely have to stop at a gas station and fill up in diesel fuel, and we're getting a tax from that. So this was not something that was developed enough to be included in the roads deal that we made. And then I saw a lot of the corporations were against it. I don't know why. I was kind of surprised to see this Glenn, what's his name, that Governor Whitmer just appointed to one of the boards. I think she appointed him to the Northern Michigan board, Glenn Stevens. Yeah, he's a pretty partisan Democrat. So he opposes it. And Whitmer just appointed him. Was it Northern Michigan board? Yeah. He's a big Democrat with Mich Auto, so he's against it. And what was it? Michigan Chamber, were they against it? There's some groups that were against it. So we'll have to understand why those groups are against it, understand where they're coming from. I was surprised to see that. These are largely the groups that lobby us for road funding, and then when we put a solution on the table, most of them oppose it. How it is. Anytime we propose any solution, they all oppose it. And by the way, did you see now the telemarketers, they're coming out against our property tax cut, because the telemarketers are going to pay for it. We're going to tax the telemarketers to pay for the property tax cut, just like we're going to tax the lobbyists. And by the way, I was talking to a multi-client lobbyist the other day. I don't like to admit that, but I did. And they were there with their client, and they were trying to say the client would pay. I said, no, the client won't pay. You guys will pay. You guys will eat the 6%, and you guys will pay, the multi-client lobby firm. Because you guys, I read the stories, you're making record profits, and you're spending more on lobbying than ever before. you guys don't need to collect the 6%, you can just remit the 6%. So the lobbyists will pay for the 6%. The telemarketers are gonna pay too. We're gonna tax the telemarketers, and they're gonna pay to lower your property taxes. You're gonna save $900 a year when we get rid of the state property tax, because the telemarketers and the lobbyists are gonna pay for it, and all these luxury services, the limousines and the private jets and everything else, they're gonna pay for it. And the political consultants, and I heard from a few political consultants, they're not happy. I hate to say it, but Perry Johnson will probably pay a lot of money with this tax between the political commercials and the consultants and everything else. And I do want to thank Perry. You know, Perry Johnson has really embraced some of my property tax ideas, and he's been very positive on my efforts to cut the property tax, to eliminate the state property tax, to get rid of the real estate transfer tax, which is going to save you probably $3,000 per time you buy or sell a home in your closing costs. To end the pop-up tax, which is forcing people to stay in their homes they don't want to stay in because their taxes will go up 2 or 3 times if they sell their home. We're going to get rid of that. And then we're going to get rid of the personal property tax, and we're going to force the utilities to lower their rate by $1 billion. That's going to result in $1,100 of savings and they call it Help Up. Hall effectively lowering property taxes and utility prices. Help Up, that's what they're calling it. Hall effectively lowering property taxes and utility prices, that's what they're calling it, Help Up. And it's gonna save you $1,100 a year. And by the way, the plan that Pauline is working on is gonna save you $500 a year. So this stuff starts adding up. But anyway, I want to thank Perry for that. He's really been embracing our property tax efforts and has been saying a lot of positive things about me. And I also want to thank John James. You know, he was very supportive of what I've been doing on Selfridge, and he made a video about that, so I appreciate that very much. It's just so great to have so many gubernatorial candidates out there helping to highlight and amplify the work of the House Republicans, you know, and very grateful for that. So we're going to see why these guys are concerned. We weren't able to get that kind of a proposal in the roads deal. And we're going to continue to work to kind of smooth out concerns. And the goal is to get these electric trucks to pay for the roads they're using. These electric trucks are much heavier than the regular trucks. These batteries are so big. And as they become more, there are more of them, as there are more electric trucks, they're going to start really wearing down the roads. So I appreciate what Pat's doing. He may not be something that gets done this term into law, but he's leading the way, just like he did on the roads deal. So we're going to keep working with Pat and working to smooth out concerns and try to figure out a good way to get them to pay. Did you have something, Colin?
Yeah, I was curious about the $1 billion utility.
Yeah, we're going to force them to do it.
Yeah, because you mentioned that's going to be part of the now Help Up plan.
Yeah.
The Lighthouse. I'm wondering, I guess the mechanics of that, is it just they're paying less in property taxes, so you take that savings, and then they just give that money back? How's this going to work? Is it going to be consumers, all utilities, period?
Yeah, so we're working on all the mechanics. But yeah, we're going to force them to lower their rates by $1 billion, which is going to wipe out the $1 billion they increased their rates over the last 3 years. So we're going to basically refund the people of Michigan, give them their money back. And then we're going to force them to freeze their rates for 2 years. So we're working on all the mechanics. You know, it would make sense to do it in the manner that they receive the property tax benefit, but we're working through all that as well. So, well, it was initially part of the Help Up plan, the Hall effectively lowering property taxes and utility prices, and it's something that amplifies the energy plan. So we're highlighting it today because it amplifies the energy plan. But it was initially part of the property tax plan, and I don't think you can talk about energy without including it. And what we're doing is we're lowering costs. We're lowering costs on your property taxes. We're lowering costs on your energy bill. And we're tackling healthcare. We're going to lower your costs there, make life more affordable. It's going to be really good when we do it. Yeah, go ahead, Remington.
I don't know if you've heard anything on this. Stryker basically held to as hacked today.
Oh, wow.
Some suggestion that it might have been Iran. Have you heard anything?
Oh, wow.
Any discussions with the company or?
No, not yet. I think we were, not able to talk to them yet, so I'll have to look into that. Thanks for that, Remington.
Is this something you're concerned about, these possible attacks of Iran by either physical or cyber?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we're concerned. We'll have to learn more information. I have a great relationship with Stryker. They're headquartered in Portage, but we've just been in meetings today, so I didn't get a chance to talk to them yet. But it's something we're going to look at. Yeah, go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, do you support shifting Michigan's primary election from August to May? The Senate committee just moved out a bill today on that.
No, I don't support moving the primary from August to May. I didn't know they moved it. I think, they should focus on other things like moving our plan to give doctors their licenses, to allow them to continue to practice in Michigan. We're not going to do moving the primary. I don't plan to do it. They want to game all these things. They move the dates around to try to game things, make it easier for the politicians. But I just think we have bigger problems like what I'm working on, lowering energy bills. And by the way, they created a lot of these problems. I mean, like Mike Duggan said, the Democrat trifecta, they did nothing. I mean, the only thing they did is they raised energy prices. Now we've got to lower the energy prices back, erase what they did, and really tackling health care and property taxes. That's what we're going to do. So, anything else? All right. Were you guys excited Pauline was here? That was cool. We haven't had her here before, so hope we gave you something to cover. All right. I know. It's great to have you here, Kyle, and Ben. They send in some subs sometime, but I can't wait to use those pictures you took of me. Figure out creative ways to use them and not give you the credit. What? I know we are. Yeah, we're like the Democrats in the Senate. We take and we don't give credit, to the right people. The Republicans, they used your Whitmer photo? Was it a nice photo?
It was not, it's turned into a not so nice photo.
Really?
It was
Oh my gosh. Oh. Well, you could be a photographer if you weren't such a great writer. Oh, okay, yeah. All right, thanks guys. Yep.